welcome back to Lauren's Books, and today we are going to be discussing Salt and Stone by Victoria Scott. So Salt and Stone is the second book of Fire and Blood by Victoria Scott, and so we're going to be discussing the second book, and so if you haven't read the first book, you should probably not watch this video. So I read Fire and Blood last year in 2014, and I absolutely loved it. It was pretty much one of my favorite books of 2014, and so this year Salt and Stone came out February 24th, so we're going to be discussing the second book, Salt and Stone. Alright, so first off, let me just get it off my chest that I literally love this series. I love it so much. And the second book was not disappointing at all. And so if you haven't picked up the series already, and if you're still watching this video for some god-awful reason, please pick it up because it is amazing and I love it to bits. And I love Victoria Scott so much. She's an amazing author, and I would literally, and I do read literally all of her books that she's put out, and I think that she is amazing. So like I said, this is the second book. If you haven't read Fire and Blood, please run away from this video and do not watch it. Do not get spoiled. Do not know anything about the second book at all. Please leave this video right now. Alright, so you've read Fire and Blood. We're on Salt and Stone. Salt and Stone pretty much starts off where we left off in Fire and Blood. We are after the second leg of the race in the desert, and everyone in the group is just chilling in the little camp afterwards, and so we have our favorite people back. We have Tella, we have Guy, we have literally all the other people that are in the second leg of the race except Harper. And so Salt and Stone is pretty much all about the last two legs of the race. So the third leg of the race is the ocean, and the fourth leg of the race is the ice biome. And so it pretty much just covers everyone in the group and some new people on how the second leg of the race is going to happen. So of course there are tons of things that happen in this book. There are tragedies, there is happiness, there is death, life, blah blah blah. There is a lot of things that happens in this book. Tella, the main character, is here. She is amazing. She has to deal with a lot more things. It's just great, and I don't know how to sum up the synopsis. You've read Fire and Blood and you wanted to read Salt and Stone. That's a little bit of a synopsis. Now on to the discussion. Alright, so the second book had a lot of twists and turns. I felt like I was on a roller coaster the entire time. It was very dramatic. It was very scarring. I don't know how I lived through it. It was great though. Throughout this entire book, it's pretty much all about everyone in the group trying to survive, obviously. Tella is still trying to get the cure for her brother, and Guy is still trying to get the cure also, but also take down the actual organization behind it. And so Tella and Guy are still an item in this book. They're still going at it, all that crazy jazzness. There's a little bit of complication to their relationship, but I mean, that happens in all books. Things happen, things get resolved. So each existing character and each new character are just so beautifully written, and I love every single one of the characters that we get into and we get introduced to. And so I love the old characters even more in this book, and I loved all the new characters that came in throughout the story. And I think Victoria Scott really knows how to write character development and really knows how to get you to fall in love with the characters pretty much. Even like the slightest minor character, you're like, oh, like, I don't know, some random kid dies and you're like, holy shit. So I just think that Victoria Scott literally writes her characters very beautifully, and she makes you fall in love with them and she makes you care about them, which is a really great thing to do as a writer and an author, is that you want someone to actually care for the characters instead of just learning about the characters and not really giving a shit about them. And so I have read books where there has no character development. Characters are pretty shitty and they're like that the entire time, and I didn't care if the plot was really great or if the storyline was great. I care about the characters mostly. And so when a character is beautifully written, I notice, and I like to flaunt it, and I like to tell people characters are fantastic. Another thing that is something that I haven't had to deal with is that the Pandoras in the story are friggin' amazing. I fall in love with these animals that don't exist, okay? So that's how great of an author Victoria Scott is. She makes them feel like they're actual people and they have actual feelings, and that they actually care about these humans that are taken care of, that they have to protect, and it's just, it's so real and it's so cool, and I want one. Like, Tella like collects these like they're best friends, and she's just, her connection with these animals is just amazing. And that's just a little thing on her character development and the actual Pandora character developments, that she can actually care for these animals that are supposed to be made to kill, and that she can transform them a bit and make them seem better. So Tella's main Pandora is named Maddox, and you pretty much fall in love with him a lot more in the second book. He is a lot more protective, he is a lot stronger, and Tella is pretty much kicking ass the entire time too, and she's gotten stronger and she's getting better, and the entire group is just doing great, and they're kicking ass, and I don't know how they're getting through this entire adventure slash horror thing together, but they are, and they're weirdly getting good at it. Alright, so enough about the characters, let's actually get into the depth of the storyline that actually happened in this book. So Salt and Stone, like I said, covers the ocean portion and the ice portion of the actual race. And so the ocean portion, they had to jump into the ocean and grab a ship and pretty much sail their way to the camp. And so Tella, this was a really great moment for her because she started to become an individual person. She started thinking for herself, and she wasn't following Guy everywhere she was going. She jumped off the normal ship that they were on to get to the ocean, and she was going to follow Guy onto the yacht that was actually obviously the fastest boat, but she decided to go for this boat that no one cared about. She ended up getting everyone that was in her original group actually follow her onto the boat, and Guy himself actually left and followed onto the boat. And so this is when we actually meet a few new characters, and we get to know a lot of new characters throughout the ocean portion of the book. And so another thing that really happened in this book, and this tragedy in the ocean one, was that their boat sank, and that they had to travel on a little raft their entire way back to the camp. And that was a really great survival skill, really great ways to get there quickly, and they shifted who was gonna do the paddles. They all became a lot stronger throughout this portion of the actual race, and then a lot of twists and turns happened. And so let's just talk about how the twist of the shark thing happened. And so the twist of the sharks was that there were sharks in the water, obviously. And that was something that was not supposed to happen. There weren't supposed to be sharks in the water. They were supposed to get there safely, blah, blah, blah. But obviously it was a mind trick thing. And there were supposed to be sharks in the ocean, but they weren't supposed to attack you because there's no reason to. I thought the really shitty thing that the people of the race did was they put an open bag of blood on the bottom of the raft. What was that? Who does that? Why? Because everyone was obviously gonna lose someone because of that. Like, the people who run this race piss me off. I don't get them. I don't like it. It's like Hunger Games, but more shitty, and they actually Jedi mind trick you. It confuses me. So when it comes to life and death type of situations, you tend to actually grow as a person, and you start to learn a lot of things about yourself. During this entire race, you realize that you're going to do things that you would literally never do in the real world. Like, you'd never kill someone, you never push someone off a cliff, or you never do literally anything that you think you would do during this race, but things happen, and that you should know that things are going to happen like this. And I really liked how Tella said something like that at the end of the book, how she's like, we change. This race changes us, and it either changes you for the better or it changes you for the worse, but everyone here is going to do something horrible that they're going to regret when they go home. And so I really liked in this book on how the race did positively affect a lot of characters. Like the main character Tella, she became a lot more independent, she was stronger, faster, she got a lot of endurance, she loves more, a lot of things happen in this book, and it can either make you or break you, and I know this would totally break me. So with the second book, it literally got better with every chapter. I was on the edge of my seat the entire time, and I could not put it down. And I only put it down when I had to. This is a book that you want to pay attention to the details, so you don't want to fly through it. It is very easy to fly through this book because it is so good, but you actually want to really pay attention to the detail, and so you can foreshadow things, or you could see them either later in the series or something like that. And so I would just suggest don't speed through this book. Pay attention to the little details that happen, note things, and don't take anything lightly. So I gave both of these books 5 out of 5 stars. It's just literally an amazing series. If you're still watching this somehow and you haven't read either of these, what are you doing with your life? So if you have not read either of these, or if you for some reason only read Fire and Flood and you don't know if you should continue on to Salt and Stone, I really highly suggest it. I love this series so much, and I love the actual writing in it. I think Victoria Scott, like I said, is an amazing author. She is fantastic. So one thing when I first picked up the series is that it got compared to The Hunger Games a lot. And the one thing I really like this series is that it is somewhat like The Hunger Games, but it is completely not like The Hunger Games. So there's this competition that's happening where you kill people and you get something near the end. That's pretty much the entire gist of how it's like The Hunger Games. And if you have read The Hunger Games and you want a series that is like it, I would suggest picking this up. I think it's so much better though. Like, it's so much more realistic, and it's so much more like you would act in an actual type of situation like this, because in The Hunger Games I felt like it wasn't realistic as much. Like, I know a lot of things happened in it and that would be realistic, but I feel like this series is a lot more in depth, and there's a lot more depth to the actual plot. So I feel like I'm gonna get a lot of hate for this, saying that I like the series a lot more than The Hunger Games, because The Hunger Games is a very fantastic series. I love The Hunger Games. I read all 3 books really instantaneously. So I like the comparison that people have made for The Hunger Games, but I think it is a lot different. It is not The Hunger Games, don't think like that. And it's just a type of survival story, and you can't compare every survival story and every type of killing thing to The Hunger Games. And so Salt and Stone, Fire and Flood, great books. I'm not sure if there's a 3rd book coming out because Victoria Scott has not released anything. She's kind of like, winky face, maybe. Pretty sure there is, because the end of this book needs a 3rd book for real. So that is everything I have on the discussion/review on Salt and Stone by Victoria Scott. If you like this review/discussion, please give it a thumbs up. It helps me out by knowing you actually like my content. It helps you out by trying to find me on your search engines. Also, if you've read this series or if you're looking forward to reading Salt and Stone, please leave it in the comment section below and let me know your feelings on this actual series. So that's everything I have for this video. Thanks for watching. Bye!